Yeah, 100 or better. Okay. Washington Street Bridge. You can sort of envision where we are. Here is the bridge itself. So the dam is directly behind Brigham's factory here. Way over in the right corner, I had a different picture. Moulton's carriages were up behind that, up on the river. And you'll be pleased to know that you don't have to eat whole corn now. You can go down there and he'll grind it for you. This is dated 1866. Same year Hudson was incorporated. And that's pretty much the where we are there. Here's a somewhat different view. This is from the 1950s. Yeah, some of you familiar with cars will peer at this, so I just said 50s. Somewhere in through there is Harry Flood's Texaco. But we have this building, this hulk over here, which we'll get to in a moment. The question is, where is this picture taken from? Well, it was a bit of a challenge, but due to Jim Quinn, he managed to get us up into what I believe is the perspective from which this picture was taken. So I think the corner here is, nope, from here. This was taken, Jimmy, was second or third floor of the Cochran building in facing Wood Square. And of course, here's the gas station, here is Robinson's, and the Armory off. Okay, we were on the other side. That was the building we just looked at, where you can get your corn ground, if you're wondering where to go. You can go there. We want to look at this building here, the Hudson Counter Company. My God, do they need a whole building just to count? What's a counter? Not that thing, you know, not where you put dishes on next to the sink. It's a part of a shoe. And which part? It's the heel part. It's the back part. So if you have walking shoes, you don't have much of a counter. Now, a little bit later, this of course is the Armory, 1913, we have a fire. Most of these towns have fires. This was a big one. And there it is as it's raging. And behind the Counter Company was a separate building that was the Hudson Batting Company, batting for stuffing of mattresses and that sort of packing, that sort of stuff. This is the same event, and I'm looking at these poor girls here and thinking, you know, just looking at fire is horrifying in and of itself, but what do you think they're really thinking? This is 1913. The jobs are going up in smoke. Which brings up the question, when did unemployment insurance come in? Who's our labor lawyer? Nobody here. Okay, I had to go look it up, so don't feel so bad. 1932, 3 years before Social Security, in the height of the Depression. Things were really bad. And where, by the way? It was not a federal program to begin with. It was a state program, and it came out of Wisconsin. All right, that's all I can tell you. I'm sure Scott Walker out there is probably grinding his teeth. Okay, but that's pretty much what's there now. Okay, looking back, this of course is Robinson's. Let's see the background and history of Robinson's. Some of you remember in the 50s and 60s, it was Grant's. Very interesting story about the Grant story. Go look it up sometime. It's really interesting. There aren't any stores, but there is the Grant Foundation now, which is still existing. And that was succeeded by, you'll remember, Robinson's. Looks a little different now. This was the 70s. I have to thank Dave Bonazzoli for this shot. And now, that's what's there now. Okay, a building you can be excused for not recognizing. This disappeared in about 1910. This is the Marshall Wood House. And Wood as in Wood Square, although Marshall Wood was the brother of Solon Wood, as we'll see later, to be replaced by the Armory. Now, the next shot's interesting, and it'll take us a minute to go through it. This is a fascinating picture. It was taken when the, well, I guess these would be called doughboys, although these guys, this was before we got into the war and World War I. When did we get in? When did we get in? 17. This is before then. But we did have some fun down on the Mexican border in 15 and 16. Doing what? Chasing Pancho Villa. Why? Ah. Oh. Oh, we have an historian, yes. Blackjack Pershing went down there, and he chased Pancho Villa all around northern Mexico. He didn't really care whether he caught him. Why did he do it? Training, because they knew the war was coming. Now, one other bit of trivia is why was Pancho Villa so considered such a person we wanted to catch? Yes, there was that. There was a small town in southern New Mexico called Columbus, New Mexico. Still there, camped there many times. Lived in Arizona for a long time, familiar with this area. And these guys were sent down there because Columbus, New Mexico was the only town pre-Twin Towers where the U.S. land was invaded by a foreign army. They actually came in, killed a bunch of people in Columbus. Okay, but at any rate, we show this picture because of what's in the background. Now, you know where you are. I mean, I think all of you are familiar enough with Hudson. We're standing probably on the steps of the Armory looking down across the street. So let's look at the buildings here. They're all gone. From right to left, this here is one of the South Street tenements that you saw before. There were two tenement blocks, I think each about 20 apartments, and they were there by the Civil War. Nobody knows when they were built. They came down in 1935. You can probably guess what's there now. You'll see a picture of that. This building here, this is South Street, by the way. This building here was a dwelling, a house. Whether it was rented, who knows. Let's hold this building for a moment. This one that says signs will later become, quite a long time ago. Oh, come on, come on. Can you? Broad's Garage, which is now McDonald's. Okay, so that leaves us this guy here, which sort of looks like a church. It's not. Tuck, it's the fire station. That's the view now. Okay? Okay, there it is. This housed the Eureka pumper, which was a big deal. How are we doing on time? Oh, geez. Okay, and that station is approximately there in the left half of what was the Harvest Cafe, now the Hudson House. Because the right-hand side would have been that dwelling, right on the very corner. where if you're coming out South Street, anybody tried to make a right to go across the dam from South Street? I hope you have a Mini Cooper or a smart car. It's not going to get any better, by the way. Okay. Well, there is the Eureka Hose. Here is the building behind. Sorry, we got to zip along here. Here in 1916, here is the hose house here. Here's the dwelling on the corner, South Street tenements. Here is what is called wheelwright, making the transition from carriages and horse-drawn to automobiles. And then the Millet Last Factory becomes the Novelty Paper Box Company, very likely boxes for shoes. And then across the street, we don't talk about it now, we will later, is the Electric Railway Freight Building. It's still there, but it's been turned. And what is it now? It's the VFW. Right on the corner behind the gas station. Because the trolley to Marlboro crossed right here. Okay, here we are in 1929. We've now become Broad's Garage. So there's a persistence in the landscape of the buildings. And in trying to trace industrial history, it can be a real challenge because you'll have the same building, different name, different owner. And that becomes a problem. A sad picture, sorry, Broad's Garage. No. Sorry. Okay, we're moving right along here. This is a postcard. Let me just tell you, this is the town hall right here. So we're back up on Pope's Hill, Mount Bellevue sometimes. A somewhat later view of the back of this huge shoe factory. Has at least a half a dozen names. This, by the way, some of you will remember because it lasted long past that building. Notice the railroad cars. Okay, there was a spur track along what is essentially South Street now. Here's a map. Here's the river at the bottom. Here's the factory, and as we knew it, it became ultimately the Ascutney Shoe Factory. Been there a long time. This was an early plan. I mean, look at this, almost 1890. That was the sketch. Always a little change, but slip between the lip and the cup. That was another, that's what it looked like a little bit later. And then we knew it as that building. And what happened to it? Oh my God, some of you will remember. Spectacular fire, 1971. And now, parking lot. Okay, just a couple overviews. We're coming up to that quiz, so pay attention here. Okay, here are the South Street tenements. The Armory will be over here. Of course, that was long after the Armory after this. Here's the School Street Schoolhouse. Here's a map of that. There are the tenement buildings with the coal sheds behind. We looked at this a moment ago. This is now the Hudson Fabric Company. That was the counter company. Actually, it was the fabric company, then later the counter. The engine house, and so forth here. That's where the South Street tenements were located. Here is the Armory over here to the left. School Street Schoolhouse. I will say I think this is probably an improvement. One of the few where the buildings now look better than they did then. View of downtown, quite a bit open. We'll have much more to say about this later. Further down, Broad Street is over here to the right. Main Street is here in the back. We're going to skip over that. This is kind of interesting. You know, environmentalists are pervasive these days. One of the things that has been often talked about is to breach dams and let free flow of the water, fish, and so forth. So the Corps of Engineers did a study here of what it would look like if they breached the dam. In other words, did away with the dam. So through what is called photorealism, they take a photo and then kind of play with it. Here we're standing on the dam, standing on the bridge, looking at the dam, looking upstream. Robinson's on the left, gas station on the right. So if you breached it and took it away, there's a possibility. But there is one huge problem with this picture. And what's the problem? Well, yeah, although I don't know if they could use it or whether it'd even be worth it. There isn't that much here. No, but it's in the picture. It's not a use of the... Dave? Yeah. The water's going the wrong way. Because we know if you're standing on the bridge looking at the dam, you're looking upstream. And in this one, you're looking down. Well, that's just a snipe. Okay, well, here's an aerial. Yeah, well, whoever did the photo was obviously not from here. So that's a thought about what the river might look like. So without these dams, you really couldn't kayak. You really couldn't canoe. Because rather than having a river, what we have is a series of lakes connected by streams. And of course, that's true for all of these rivers, all of the New England rivers. Okay, just a little bit about this. Washington Street, Route 85, like Main Street, Route 62, is a state road. Anything that carries a number is a state road. That means it's totally state jurisdiction. That's the downside. The good side is it's their dime. Well, it's our dime, but they pay for it. The real problem is getting in the queue, getting in the top of the queue. There is a plan to redo the bridge. This has been in the works for a while. This, by the way, is why Broad Street and Main Street in Houghton have been redone. Because if you shut down Washington Street, how do you get across? And those are going to be the main passageways. So the thinking is it's going to take 2 construction seasons, 16, 17. Not sure they're going to meet that. Might be 17, 18, but it'll be 2 seasons. At some point, I thought early, but it may be actually during the later part, they will close down, and they will literally, the bridge is going to totally go away, completely redo it, which is sort of a shame, because I'll show you what it looks like underneath. And when that begins, who knows? Stay tuned. So this is the arch, and that's been there very likely since the Civil War. They knew how to do this. It's a 3-arch bridge. This is interesting. The dam is just to your left. Here is the bridge itself. But notice this. We got granite block, fieldstone, some more fieldstone, concrete. It's quite a mix. And here is the steel decking here. Okay, all right. Anybody awake? We lost anybody yet? Now I cheat a little bit in using the term bridge. Oh, somebody's been paying attention. You wouldn't know that driving across it.